Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. It really helps me out and you never want to miss a video of mine. So I'm outside and it's getting a little late, so hopefully I have enough daylight to film this. If not, I might have to switch scenes, but I'll probably just redo it if I run out of daylight. But anyway, so I am outside because I really like filming outside. So probably most of my summer videos are going to be outside. But anyway, today's video is going to be my top cages plus the best cages, or pretty much like everyone's top cages, most common cages. I don't know what I'm going to title this video, but basically we're going to be talking about cages today because cages are one of the most important part of owning hamsters or mice, you know, or gerbils, but I'm not going to be talking about gerbils in this video. But it's one of the most important parts. You know, if you have too small of a cage, then your hamster or mouse is probably not going to be the happiest. Actually, mice can be in small cages, but I don't recommend it, or neither do a lot of people recommend putting your mouse in a small cage, or mice, because you should have more than two. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about cages. So I have a list, so if I'm ever looking down or it's like choppy, I always say this in my care videos, I'm going off a script, so I make sure that I say everything that I need to, and I get all my point across. So I have pros and cons for every single cage that I have. I have 7/6 cages to talk about in this video, so let's just honestly get to it. So my top one, my one that's on the top, is my 75-gallon tank. So I just recently got this, and sorry about that. So it is probably my favorite cage that I have, and mainly because of its size and all that stuff. A lot of people, that when I posted my video about my 75-gallon tank, a lot of people blew that video up, and you guys seem to really like that video. I don't really know why. It's literally a cage cleaning video pretty much, or I'm setting up it, but it's crazy. So basically it is 864 square inches. I have all of what the size is on every single one, and this one is 864 square inches. Also, hamster cages are measured in square inches, so basically how you do that, which you probably should know how to do it, you do the length by the width and you times that, and that's your square inches. So it's a great size. I absolutely love that size. It's very tall, which is really good for putting in a lot of bedding, and I just love how tall it is. I think it's 21 inches, which is very tall. And it's also very wide, so it's really easy to put in a bunch of toys and all that stuff. And my hamster absolutely loves it. He used to be in a 40-gallon breeder, but now he's in the 75-gallon, and oh my god, does he love it so much. I mean, it's crazy how much happier he got. So moving on to the cons, which I don't really have a lot for this cage. You would think I do, but I've only had it for a little bit, so I haven't really ran into any cons really. But the one thing is it's a little big, so it is kind of hard if you don't have a big room or you don't really have anywhere to put it. That does get hard, and it is also heavy, which doesn't really matter. That was just like a one-time thing pretty much. Like, you're not going to be moving it 24/7. Like, I just put that in because it was heavy, but like, it's not really a con. But the only con that I found with the 75-gallon, if you don't have any room in your room, it's going to be hard to find a spot for it because it is quite big. Okay, next is the Ikea D-Loft, which is 1,008 square inches. I don't know why there's that 8, but so my pros with this is it's very long, which is quite easy to put in a lot of toys. Very cheap. It's one of the cheapest cages for that size. It's only $60. And it is eye appealing, which I personally think that it's really pretty looking. Like, I just love how long it is. I love it. Like how I did not put in the size of it on this one, because moving on to the cons, it's very long. So again, with the size, like what I said with the 75-gallon, it does take up a lot of room in your room. So if you don't have really a big room, it's going to be hard to find a spot in it unless you move around stuff and like calculate all that stuff. It is kind of hard to find a spot for it. It's very awkward to move. I like how I'm adding in like the same things for everyone, but it's very weird to move. Like, it's very hard to move. So like if you ever do need to move it, it's kind of hard to do. And it's not very wide. This is one of my problems. It's not very wide, so it is kind of hard to put in a lot of cages, and I love wide cages. Wide cages are my favorite thing, and the Ikea D-Loft is just not that. It's really hard to put in like two toys next to each other. It's kind of hard to do that, so we don't love that. Also, Syrians, well, female Syrians do not like it. I had a female Syrian in it and she did not like it. I had a male Syrian in it and he loved it. And then my hamster right now, Ivy, she loves it. She's a dwarf. But it's crazy how much my Syrian, she might have just not liked, she wanted more space, and you know, it's kind of hard to get bigger than 1,000. So yeah, that's my cons for the Ikea D-Loft. I'm not a big fan of the Ikea D-Loft, but it is a pretty good cage because it's so cheap, and I don't know, it is a pretty good cage. That's just, I have more cons than pros. But on to the next thing is my 40-gallon breeder, which I love. It is 648 square inches. I think that this is my favorite cage. It is a great starter cage. It was my first appropriate size cage and I loved it, absolutely loved it. I still have it obviously, but it was one of my favorite cages, and it probably still is, but it's just not, it's not huge. It is kind of cheap as well. It's like 114 I think I bought it for, and you can also get it for half off when they're having the $1 tank deal thing, so you can get it for $50, which so cheap. That's cheaper than the Ikea D-Loft, which obviously it's not the hugest cage in the world, but it is pretty big. And it is very wide, which, like I said, I love wide cages. All right, moving on to the cons. I, again, don't really have many cons for this cage. I absolutely love it. I have my mice in it right now. I think it's a great size for them. My only thing for the cons is animals outgrow it. So my Robo, yes, he's so small, but he got to the point where it just seemed like he needed a bigger cage, and I didn't even really realize it until I put him in the 75-gallon, and he just brightened up. Like, he got so much happier. He wasn't like, he loved his 40-gallon breeder, but he definitely outgrew it after a year of being in the same cage. He definitely outgrew it, and so that's the only really problem with it. And also, it's not very big, which I already brought up, that it's not the biggest cage, but it is a really good starter size. So if you're looking for a cage that's kind of cheap, it's not huge, but it's over the minimum, which the minimum for hamster care, I totally forgot to say this, is it's 460 square inches. So it's over the minimum, but it's also a great size, and it's not huge. So I definitely recommend a 40-gallon breeder if you're starting off in hamster care. All right, next one is a bin cage. So this is a very popular cage. I don't have an exact minimum for it, but as long as it's 450 square inches over, or 450 square inches, then it is a safe cage, and it can be really cheap. It can be like $10. The only thing, okay, so I'll go over it. So many sizes. You can get really big ones, you can get the minimum, and it's very cheap, like I said. And then it's also a good starter cage as well. If you are just starting out and you got a critter trail, and obviously that's not safe, and you need a really fast over the minimum cage, a bin cage is amazing for that. Now I'm gonna go over cons. Now, I personally have never owned, well, I own a bin cage, but I've never personally had animals live in a bin cage, so I don't know all the like big good and bad to it, so just letting you know. So do you have to make the lid, which is not, it's not that hard, but you do have to do that, which kind of sucks sometimes when you have to like hand make something when you just want something fast and easy. Not the biggest. You can't really get, I think you can get 1,000 square inches, but it's like, it's a lot bigger, I think, than like the Ikea D-Loft or the 75 gallon. So it's and then easy to chew through. So if there's edges on, like, you know how it kind of a bin goes in like on the sides, sometimes that's really easy for a Siberian to chew. Personally, again, I have never had this issue, but I have had friends and people talk about how it is a possibility that your hamster or mouse can chew through it, so just be careful of that. But moving on to the next one is wooden cages. So again, I personally do not own a wooden cage. I don't know the bad and the goods, but from friends and from looking at cages, this is my knowledge. So usually a wooden cage, the minimum is like 650 or something like that. I don't think they usually go under 600. Personally, from what I've seen, they don't go under 600 and above. They have 1,000 square inches cages. Wooden cages are really nice cages, honestly. So one, they're very tall. Usually they are like 20 something inches, just like the 75 gallon. Very eye appealing. I swear wooden cages are probably the prettiest cage out there, but that's not really a plus for your hamster, but it is very eye appealing. And they're usually big. Like I said, they're not usually under 600 from what I've seen. All right, moving on to the cons. Again, I have not owned one of these cages, so I don't really know the good and bad, but from friends and like seeing things, this is my knowledge. If peed on, ruined. You have to buy a whole entire new cage, and I don't think that that's good. I feel like I would hate that, absolutely hate that, because it's really hard to get out pee in wood, because you can't bake the whole thing. So that does kind of suck. That if it's peed on constantly, if it's peed on like a couple of times, you can probably wash it out for the next hamster. But if it's peed on like 1,100 times, then yeah. And then very bulky. From what I've seen, like, it's not just the size of the cage. There's like thick wood on the outside of it, so that's just kind of bad. And also from a friend as well, she said that there is a like little wood piece to have the lid stick up, which that sounds also really nice, but again, I've never owned one, so I don't really know. All right, we're ending up the video, but I'm going to end the video with just tanks in general. You can get the lowest tank that you can get is 648 square inches. Kind of not, because there are smaller cages like 20 gallon tall, 20 gallon long, but those are not suited towards hamster, or they shouldn't be suited towards hamster because they are under the minimum. So the lowest one you can get is 648 square inches, and then the largest I think you can get is probably the 75 gallon. I don't know if there's other ones, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I think there is 100 square inches, but I don't know if it's like too tall or too skinny, because I know the 55 gallon is way too skinny. But anyway, can find easily. They're in pretty much every pet store. Sometimes good sizes, so sometimes they fit in your room really easily. Sometimes they are the perfect size for your hamster. And I personally like the look of them, but moving on to cons, not a fan favorite. So it's not really eye appealing to a lot of people, but I personally really like the look of tanks. Some people just like the look of wooden cages, bin cages. Like, some people just like that look of it, but I personally like tanks. Hi, I want to pop in here real quick and say that there are cages that I didn't talk about, like wire cages and a lot of different cages that are suitable for hamsters, but I just didn't talk about it just because usually when you say a wire cage, a lot of people think of critter trails, so I didn't include that. And there are different cages that I didn't include. That doesn't mean that is a good cage or a bad cage, by the way. And then can be expensive. That's all. That's the video. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it helped one person out there. If you have any questions, my comments are always on, and I am very free to open any question or answer any question. And yeah, my new spot is outside. Very good looking background, but I will probably start filming inside again. And I'm hoping to post a little bit more because I've been kind of MIA. Okay, I think that's it. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that helped one person out there, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Bye guys.